chapter 8. And it came to pass, when Samuel was old, that he made his sons judges over Israel. Now the name of the firstborn was Joel, and the name of the second Abiah. They were judges in Beersheba. And his sons walked not in his ways, but turned aside after lucre, and took bribes, and perverted justice. Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together, and came to Samuel unto Ramah. And they said unto him, Behold, you are old, and your sons walk not in your ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations. But the thing displeased Samuel, when they said, Give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed unto the Lord. And the Lord said unto Samuel, Hearken unto the voice of the people in all that they say unto you, for they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me, that I should not be king over them, according to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt, even unto this day, and that they have forsaken me, and served other gods. So do they also unto you. Now therefore hearken unto their voice. Howbeit you shall earnestly forewarn them, and you shall declare unto them the manner of the king that shall reign over them. And Samuel told all the words of the Lord unto the people that asked of him a king. And he said, This will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons, and appoint them unto him for his chariots, and to be his horsemen, and they shall run before his chariots. And he will appoint them unto him for captains of thousands, and captains of fifties, and to plow his ground, and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war, and the instruments of his chariots. And he will take your daughters to be perfumers, and to be cooks, and to be bakers. And he will take your fields, and your vineyards, and your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants. And he will take the tenth of your seed, and of your vineyards, and to give his officers, and to his servants. And he will take your men servants, and your maid servants, and your goodliest young men, and your asses, and put them to his work. He will take the tenth of your flocks, and you shall be his servants. And you shall cry out in that day because of your king, whom you shall have chosen you. And the Lord will not answer you in that day. But the people refused to hearken unto the voice of Samuel. And they said, Nay, but there shall be a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us, and go out before us, and fight our battles. And Samuel heard all the words of the people, and he spoke them in the ears of the Lord. And the Lord said to Samuel, Hearken unto their voice, and make them a king. And Samuel said unto the men of Israel, Go you every man unto his city. All right, let's go back up here to verse 1. Now, we'll remember the Philistines have been put to task or put back in their place, and Israel's once again beginning to prosper. And now Samuel's getting old, and that's where we're going to pick it up. Verse 1, And it came to pass, when Samuel was old, that he made his sons judges over Israel. So Samuel's getting older now. He getting where he can't hardly make his circuit, little circuit he had set up that he could go judge the people, and he can't hardly make it, so he's going to make his sons some judges. Verse 2, Now the name of the firstborn was Joel, and the name of the second Abiah. They were judges in Beersheba. Joel is God the Mighty One, and Abiah is the field of strength. Now, Beersheba, we know, is the well of the sevenfold oath. And so his two sons now are judges. He's set them up as judges in Beersheba. And his sons, and that is the further south part of Judah. And his sons walked not in his ways, but turned aside after lucre, and took bribes, and perverted justice. So we see his sons were not quite the man that Samuel was, and that they didn't walk after the Lord, they didn't do like their father done, but they took bribes and perverted justice for money, and did those things which brought them great profit. Verse 4, Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together, and they came to Samuel unto Ramah. So we got the elders gathered up. They've come down to Ramah, this high place, and they've come to Samuel. 5, and they said unto him, Behold, you are old, and your sons walk not in your ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations. So they've come to Samuel, and they want a king now. And we knew this day would come because it's prophesied to us in several places of the book. And Deuteronomy 28 and Judges 4, both places. 6, but the thing displeased Samuel when they said, Give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed unto the Lord. So when Samuel, the elders come, and he heard this, he wasn't happy about this, and he's went to the Lord, and he's prayed to God, and to see what God has to say. 7, and the Lord said unto Samuel, Hearken unto the voice of the people in all that they say unto you, for they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me, that I should not be king over them. So God says to Samuel, yes, make them a king to rule over them. It ain't you they're rejecting, Samuel. It's me they're rejecting. They don't want me to be their king. And we'll see the people didn't understand that God was trying to be their king. God was trying to rule over them through the law and through in his kingdom, in his order and his understanding. But the people had no understanding, and they kept going after these false gods. And this became stitched into the fabric, and the people were at ease with all this idolatry. And they no longer understood God and his ways. God tells Samuel, do as they say. 8, according to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt, even unto this day, that they have forsaken me and served other gods, so do they also unto you. And we'll see that's because God had rent the kingdom from the hand of Eli, or Eli. He was the priest, and he was up to them to teach this law to all the people and to make sure the people was doing accordingly. But things had got relaxed, see, and they didn't. They didn't enforce the law at all, and they allowed the law to be perverted for money and gain, as it is this day. So this is what happened, and God's telling Samuel ever since, and we're seeing the prophecies out of Deuteronomy, all these things was going to happen, just like Moses told him, just like Joshua told him, when all these blessings come to pass, and all these cursings. And we were told, Deuteronomy 28 of this day, when they would want a king, and God said, and we're going to find out what's going to happen to that king, because Judges 9 tell us what happens to the king in the end. 9, now, therefore, hearken unto their voice. However, you shall earnestly forewarn them, and shalt declare unto them the manner of the king that shall reign over them. So he's telling them, Samuel, he says, but you give them a king, but you're going to warn them. You will surely warn them, because they don't listen to me, and I want them to know for sure, just like when they were witnesses against themselves that day, and they took on the agreement. Now they're witnesses against themselves this day. They're wanting a king. And Samuel told all the words of the Lord unto the people that asked him for a king. And here's what Samuel would tell everybody that wanted a king. 11, and he said, This will be the manner of king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them unto him for his chariots, and to be his horsemen, and they shall run before his chariots. So he's going to take your sons, and he's going to make an army. He's going to have him an army out of them. And he's going to make these chariots were machines of war back then. Of course, we have a lot more sophisticated machines now. And his horsemen, the cavalry, and they'll run before his chariots. So he's going to have foot soldiers, armies of every kind. 12, and he will appoint them unto him for captains of thousands and captains of fifties, and plow his ground, and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war, and the instruments of his chariots. And he's telling them, this is the kind of king you're going to get, because any time man has tried to set something up, we've seen these judgments over and over in the book. These judgments of men have to come to pass, because this is what happens when men rule. They're going to have them a great army. They're going to make all kinds of instruments of war. They're going to set up their armies, and they're going to take your men to plow their ground and bring in their harvest to get all their victuals for them, everything they need. 13, and he will take your daughters to be perfumers and to be cooks and to be bakers. 13, he's going to take their daughters to make his perfumes, to be his cooks, his bakers, to take care of all the household matters, to launder and all this. 14, and he will take your fields and your vineyards and your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants. So the king's going to come in and take all the good things of the land. See, he's going to take over all the good things for himself. He's the king. 18, and these, this all has a higher understanding too, if we want to look at it that, but we won't go into that. 15, and he will take the tenth of your seed and of your vineyards and give to his officers and to his servants. And this is going to be a tenth. This is actually almost like your tithes. He's going to take up your tithes. They're going to go to him. You're making a king over you. 16, and he will take your men servants and your maid servants and your goodliest young men and your asses and put them to his work. So he's going to take all your servants away from you, all these maid servants, these men servants, all these ones that you've got to help you. He's going to take them to help him. Your asses, these things that carry your burden, they're going to carry his burdens. 17, and he will take the tenth of your flocks, and you shall be his servants. So this is a tax, the tenth. He's going to tax you. I wish it was just a tenth, but it's far more than that these days. He's going to tax everything you've got, and he's going to take it to himself to do his work. See, before, it wasn't like this. Everything worked out accordingly. God prospered in abundance. Now you're going to make yourself a king, and all he's going to do is take the abundance thereof. 18, and you shall cry out in that day because of your king, whom you shall have chosen you. And the Lord will not answer you in that day, because remember, these were the judgments that was to come about anyway when you do not obey the law of God, when you go chasing after idolatry, when you go chasing after all these teachings of the world, and you do not listen to God, you do not obey his law, his understanding, his teachings. See, this is what's going to happen. And this is where we find ourselves today. 19, but the people refused to hearken unto the voice of Samuel. And they said, no, but there shall be a king over us. See, so no longer, then God using Israel as example here. See, no longer are they going to have Samuel. Samuel was sent as the last judge. Samuel be the one who appoints the king. Samuel was the one who took the place of the priesthood. See, the priesthood's been broken. The strength of it has. And Samuel has sat there to replace it. Now, this has even been broken. God's going to give him the king because, see, this is the order of things. This is how God works. 20, that we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. Now they're just making an excuse. They're telling Samuel this is why. The real reason is that Samuel's sons have went astray, and they're chasing after lucre, and the land's polluted again, and the people are going astray. And they're trying to set up a way that they can have a ruler over them outside the law of God. We're seeing them making now the judgment seat for the law of men. 20, and Samuel heard all the words of people, and he spoke them in the ears of the Lord. So Samuel listened to what the people said, and he went back and he's reported it to God. Of course, God done knew. God's way ahead of Samuel here by several hundreds of years. And he done knew it was going to come to this point. And he done knew they was going to have a king. And he's given instructions in Deuteronomy 2 to this king, what this king should do. Now, he's ordered to stay in his law continually, to make him a copy of the book of the law and set it right beside him there. And we'll see that what things come to be. I'm going to speak before we get there. But the time of the judges is coming to an end, and we're going to see things begin to change as we get deeper into this story. But we know the end of the king, and we know the end of all of it. See, God's done told us the end of it all. They didn't consider it now. If they would have been wise, they would have considered these things, but they wasn't. And we're going to go on through learning from the mistake side instead of taking the not from the correct side. See, this is the punishment in the book of Deuteronomy. What happens? We're under the cursings now, and we're going to continue under the cursings until you turn and are delivered from your sins, until you turn and begin to follow the commandments, and we see a change in society, we see a change in the heart of people. Then shall God once again return. After we put away the devoted thing, and after we put away this thing that men have made to lead us astray. 22, and the Lord said to Samuel, listen unto their voice, and make them a king. And Samuel said unto the men of Israel, go you every man into his city. So now we see God's told Samuel, make him a king. And Samuel's told everybody, go to the house. We're going to do some thinking now. And we're going to see what the Word of God comes out. Samuel's going to see what God says and how God says to handle this. And he sends everybody to the house. And this is where we're going to pick it up in the morning with chapter 9.